welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Wendy Silebi. Today, my guest is Gerald, and he's the acting CEO of the South African Savings Institute, an author, a certified financial planner, and I think his bio is full. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to take us through his background, where he was born, and just tell us more about the work that he's done, that he has done. So one of the reasons why we're having this podcast is that July is National Savings Month, and so we want to talk all things savings. Well, hi, Gerald.
Always a pleasure and nice to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I've just introduced you, as the acting CEO of the South African Savings Institute. Can you just maybe share with our viewers where you come from? Who is Gerald? Where were you born?
Okay, so I'm an African boy, born in Harare, Zimbabwe. Educated in Zim until 94, and then I left, went for university in the UK. And when I wanted to come home, there was no home to come to. The economy had pretty much fallen apart. Ended up staying in the UK for a good 10, 12 years. Came back to Africa in 2006 and settled in South Africa. And that's where I've been. I've been living here. And I think my main claim to fame is that when I talk finance, when I talk financial education, I talk a lived experience. I know about what it's like not to have. And I also know what it's like to have a lot. And I also know what it's like to waste and end up in a situation where you have to start managing things again. So that's the journey of money. And the overarching theme in all this is that no one taught me. No one sat me down. And if I had one thing I could do in my life is to talk to myself at 20 with what I know now. Because I would have changed my life and changed a lot of the decisions I've made. So that's why I have a passion specifically around financial education and money. And I think it's also something to do with my family. So my surname is Mwandiambira. Mwandiambira is Manika. It means you have advised me, you have warned me. Okay. And it's one of the things I talk about, which is aligned to who we are in our spiritual walk, in terms of understanding your family bent, your family gift. And if I had to look back, all my uncles, all my grandparents, great-parents, they're teachers or they're pastors. Okay. So I did not know this until much later on in my life, but it aligns to what I do now, because our family gift is communication. It's teaching. It's being able to move someone from a position here and then you leave them in a better position. So it's important. It's one of the messages, one of the things I've done personally on videos as well, to say, understand your family. I know the West will say African ancestors don't help, they mean nothing. No. If your family was the catering family in the royal household, Keshaka, means maybe your gift is catering. If your family was the healers, understand your healers. If your family was Amabut, the soldiers, you must be looking for a career in security. Because when you align your family gift or ancestral calling in terms of your natural bloodline, you actually then can walk there. So I grew up saying my dad then was a sound engineer. So he worked for the equivalent of the SABC in Zim. And I used to sit there after school and he'd be recording stuff and helping DJs. And I was like, these guys are poor. Yo, I ain't doing this, mom. I'm not going to be no DJ. They're struggling here, man, playing records. Yeah, I love music, because my gift of loving music came from sitting for hours listening to everything from classical to pop. But they were broke, mom. I was like, you're right. Never. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to be an architect. And that's how I ended up in the UK. Initially, I started doing architecture. And I did architecture for about a year. Architecture and town planning. And then from there, I then started doing, I was a relationship manager for financial institution And for many years, I was just doing these jobs, relationship manager, BDM, what. And then one day someone asked me, what's your gifting, Dad? What are you? And I was like, actually, you're right. Okay, let me do CFP. Because a certified financial planner talks everything about money. But then it finally brought alignment in that I now accepted my gift as a communicator. Okay. And then the last straw was when now I lost my job at Liberty, 2010. And I was unemployed. And I was at church. And, there's nothing worse than a man trying to provide and having no resource. And one of the ladies at church was Thandi Gweba. She was the editor of Move magazine at the time. Yeah. And I spoke to Thandi. And Thandi said, Gerald, you speak good English, man. Don't you? You're Zimbabwean. You speak good English. Can you write? I was like, of course I can write, man. Who can't write English? Then she says, okay, can you do a column for me every week? Then I started doing the Move column. And then when she moved to drum, I started doing drum. And then before you knew it, I looked at 200 articles on personal finance because I was talking money. Yeah. And that's how I ended up with a book. Then I ended up with a TV show and a radio show. And then I was noticed by Abelungu who said, no, let's give you a financial planning business. That's a whole other story altogether. But that's my journey. Okay. But essentially, I'm a black child who had a dream. Yeah. And I'm still trying to find the dream.
The dream, Okay. So, you just mentioned that you have published some books. I've got one of Gerald's books in my hand. It's called Money, Imali Yako, Your Money, Your Health.
My money, my health, Mariangu, mi pesa yangu. Yes.
That's what it is, right?
And that book essentially was some of the articles which I had done at that point. Because the nice thing about each chapter here is normally that was a weekly article. So it's normally about 1,000 words. Yeah. Okay. And the nice thing about it was written for black people. Sure. Move readers and Drum magazine were black females. Yeah. So I was writing for that audience. So it's nice, it's simple, and it really talks to us in terms of understanding the fundamentals of Imali. Okay. I then moved on, and my other two books are called Our Money. And that's about business because I was unemployed. I never got employed again after Liberty, by the way. Yeah. I became self-employed and then unemployed again. But essentially, it's about starting a business, what to look for, what to run away from, what works, what doesn't work. And then the last book, it's called Young Money. And Young Money was because I gave this book to my daughter and she's like, hey, Papa, this thing is too hard. Yeah. So I toned it down. I put my cartoons. Okay. And it's a much easier read, and it's designed for someone from grade 7 growing up to basically understand Imali. But that's all I do. I still believe that we have a lot to learn as black people. And places like Sasi were natural places for me because with Sasi, again, I used to volunteer. And I don't even know how I ended up meeting Elizabeth. Yeah, Elizabeth was the CEO of Sasi at the time, about 2014. And they were having an event, and I think I was there. I was a speaker. And then she said, I'm leaving. Do you want to do this? There's no salary. So don't get this whole CEO thing. There's no money. It's just a title. It's a ceremonial volunteer role. Yeah. And then I started doing Savings Month, July. My first Savings Month was 2015. And I ran Savings Month till last year. Yeah. And Sasi has evolved through that period. And the main evolution, Mamwendi, is around the funding. In 2014, 2015, all I had to do was pick up the phone, call the old mutual or Nedbank and say, I need 100,000 for July. And it was not a conversation. By 2020, it was a different story because every financial institution realized the power of financial education in terms of it being a lever to increase business. Yeah. So when they started investing internally, it meant that funding pool for someone like Sasi was greatly reduced. And that's why this is probably the last year of having Sasi as an entity. But I do believe I will start something to take it forward because Sasi was really around savings and investment. Yeah. And it was Trevor Manuel's dream in 2001 when he saw Indonesia and Malaysia. And he said, how did these guys build an economy without Abelungu? No Britain, no USA. But they're built strong economies.
Yeah.
It was built on internal domestic saving.
Yeah.
So that's why SASSI came about. And then at the beginning of SASSI, had big sponsors. I think it's Citigroup,
Yeah.
who threw in a lot of money. Carnegie, Rockefeller. It was American money at the beginning because they like talking money.
Yeah.
So then it grew, and we then got Old Mutual. So that thing they call the Old Mutual Savings and Investment Monitor, that started off with SASSI.
Yeah.
And then SASSI didn't have the resource. Old Mutual took it. They ran with it.
Okay.
Same thing with Teach Children to Save. We were with Citigroup and BASA. Again, SASSI didn't have the resources. BASA took it over. It's now Star Saver.
Star Saver, yeah.
So a lot of intellectual property in South Africa has a SASSI attachment or link in terms of how it's gone to market.
Yeah.
And that's really what SASSI is about. It's about advocacy in terms of representing consumers to government. So things like the tax-free savings. SASSI was very much involved with Treasury, government, private sector, and the banks. Advocacy, let's have something which makes it easy for people to save, which has no tax attachment to it.
Okay.
Financial literacy, that's now the main thing people know us for. And then the last thing was research.
Yeah.
And that's really something that I feel was not explored enough. We used to have the savings barometer. And every month we had a number which showed are we saving or not. And then there's a few savings indices since then. But I think South Africa is still weak on the research side because we don't have enough information on what makes us do what we do.
Exactly. Okay. No, thanks for that, Gerald. I started working with SASSI as soon as the FSCA had made it, that all banks must go out there in the deep rural communities to do consumer financial education. And that's how I got to get to work with SASSI. And I must say that, the work that SASSI has done is commendable. In terms of that Teach Children to Save, I was there when it was launched, and now it's Star Saver. And maybe I just want to go back to an article that I read in the Business Tech, where they say that the South African savings rate is sitting at a dismal 0.5%, and they are also saying that, South Africans are not saving, but actually they're depending on credit to survive month on month. And I think that's why we have this call, the July National Savings Month. Yeah. But now we find ourselves in a place where inflation is high, interest rates are high, food prices have gone high, but we're saying people must save.
I think the message has changed. I looked at the numbers the other day, and in terms of the savings rate, it actually improved quite a lot during COVID.
Yeah.
Because people were sitting at home.
Yeah.
So during COVID, I think the savings rate went up to about 3%.
Yeah.
It started to come down again into negative territory because people are going back into debt.
Yeah.
But it's one of the reasons why I think, SASSI is being wound down and we need new entities. Because SASSI focused on savings and investment.
Right.
Now, one of the things they won't tell you is that savings and investment depend on income. Who gives us income? Umlungu, job. Okay? Yeah. So, there's an alignment. Savings and investment is dependent on you having a job which you have sent someone a CV to give you to earn money.
Yeah.
When unemployment comes, we're not equipped to save. We're not equipped to invest because you've taken away the income.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel the next wave of financial education should be centered on wealth creation, which is now around self-employment. You are unemployed, you will never get a job. Forget about it. Think how you can create a job for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've seen it. There's people who are collecting and recycling things. There's people who are going into collectibles. COVID taught us the power of social media.
Yeah.
People are on camera and they're making money just talking, being themselves.
Like us.
Like us. We are both unemployed.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we now need a new narrative which is around wealth creation. Because I think South Africa knows that they need to save. They know they need to invest. But we haven't given them the means to understand that they can create money out of nothing. If you, Mam Wendy, I gave you a piece of wood and you make a chair and you bought that piece of wood for 50 Rand and you sell that chair for 200 Rand, where did the 150 Rand come from?
Yeah.
You made it.
Exactly.
Money is created.
Yeah.
Money is spoken into existence, which is why on the first chapter in the book, I tell you, you cannot be a money slave because money is a tool.
True.
So you need to make money work for you. And I think that's where we now need to take our youth.
Yeah.
To stop thinking that somebody is going to save us.
Somebody's going to rescue.
And that's a very colonial attitude where we were taught through Bantu education to be a house girl or a houseboy. Or the best job for a black person was doctor, teacher, or lawyer to keep your kind from going to prison. That's all. But now we need to be big dreamers. Why is it that the great inventors, Elon Musk, went out and he created Tesla, PayPal? Why? Because the Afrikaner attitude, the Afrikaner bloodline has always been focused on Voortrekker. I never learned to Afrikaans, but I know what Voortrekker means. Voortrekker means pioneer, a pioneering spirit.
Yeah.
I caught an aeroplane to Harare the other day. If you pick up News 24, they will tell you Harare, Zimbabwe is the worst place to go. That plane was 99% full of Afrikaners.
Right.
Where are they going?
To
They are
Zimbabwe.
Voortrekking. They are seeing opportunity before you see it.
Yeah.
Hence, we need to now be our own Voortrekkers with our own financial destiny as black people. And it's not about being taught to save and invest, because I can't save and invest. I'm not interested. I want to do it when I have money. So let's talk wealth creation. Let's talk, Mamu, did Ugogo have a gramophone in your house?
My grandmother.
Did you have a gramophone somewhere? Where is it?
I don't know.
Do you know that gramophone is worth 12,000?
Now, ne?
Yeah. Do you know that if you went to a car and said, I'm going door to door looking for my gramophone, I'll give you 500 Rand, you'll have 50 gramophones in 2 days.
Yeah.
And you restore those gramophones and put them on eBay and sell them in the UK.
Yeah, so those are just opportunities that we can create for ourselves. And I think what you've just said resonates with the previous episode that we did with the youth, to say, the youth unemployment rate is at its highest peak. And young people need to start thinking outside of the box to create wealth from themselves, and then they can kickstart their journeys, of saving and investing.
The word employment, Mamwend, is it even necessary? Me, I challenge the book. I challenge the boundaries.
Yeah.
Who defines employment? An employer. Who says I need to be employed to be worth something? Because our problem with the youth having self-worth is because we have aligned your self-worth, your value, to someone else paying you month and chenet. Hence, when you don't have a job, you feel useless. We need to change that narrative to say employment is actually, for me, flip the script and say employment is a form of slavery.
Yeah.
And challenge me if you are not a slave to someone if you are employed.
Yeah.
Because if you're unemployed, I can wake up and decide to do nothing and be hungry. Or I can decide to wake up and go look for earthworms and say, I'm so hungry, I'm going to make an earthworm recipe because it's the only food I can afford.
Yeah.
That's what brings creation and allows us to create wealth. And I think that's where my heart is now, in terms of saying, let's create wealth for ourselves. Let's break these narratives of you need to be employed.
Yeah.
Let's break these narratives that you need a business card to define who you are. Let's break these narratives which say black people were born to be poor.
Yeah.
No, they are black billionaires. I want to be one of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, where you've worked and where I've worked as well, because I remember I also worked for Nedbank for a short period. I was sitting there with the executives. The life is good. The life is good, guys. When you're a boss, it's a nice life. They eat well. They've got dining rooms. It's to finish those things for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think You know, we want Black Child to start dreaming of him doing something. And one of the biggest weaknesses, which I always point out about South African youth, is that our education system does not teach anything outside South Africa.
Yeah.
Therefore, when foreigners come, we are a problem. But no, we're not a problem. We're hungry when you come here. We're looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
But because your system has not taught the youth how to see opportunity around themselves, when a foreigner opens his spaza shop in your community, like, but how?
Yeah.
But every day when you've been going to buy bread, where did you think the bread comes from? So we need to get those things back up. We need to get that entrepreneurial spirit. And I like the way you spoke about books, because books are so important to empowerment. Every movie you've watched where there's a wealthy person in a mansion, they have an office and they are surrounded by books.
Yeah. 67% of you watching this podcast haven't subscribed as yet. I must say we've made some progress. We've come down a bit, and I'd love for you to even take us lower than this 67% by subscribing. There's a little bell on the right-hand side. Click on it and you're subscribed, and that will help you not miss any of the upcoming podcasts.
It's important to save when you're young because of a financial planning formula called the time value of money.
Yeah.
The time value of money simply says that money saved now grows over time. And by saving money now, yes, you're losing out on an opportunity cost now, but you're creating one in the future. And everybody who's ever created wealth has needed time. Money is not lotto. Sports bets, it's not that. No. Money is about I put X amount every day, and over time it catches up. And if you look at the time value of money and the formula of compounding, it normally takes about 15 to 20 years for money to start reaching that space where it starts doubling.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
I understanding like Pastor Bushiri. Double. Yeah, double. Okay? No, problem with us is if I told you, Mama Wendy, when you're 20, Kuti, start saving now, but you're only going to really start seeing the power of compounding when you're 45.
Yeah.
It's such a long time away.
Yeah.
But time moves.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers the opening ceremony of the World Cup 2010. It was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Had you started saving money during that time, I would say